Good evening. This is the June 26, 2025 Litchfield Budget Committee meeting. My name is Scott Taylor, Vice Chair, filling in for Chairman Sun, who is out this evening, and we'll call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Agenda was sent out by Chairman Sun. Anybody have any additions or changes that they want to make to the agenda this evening? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move into correspondence. On May 23rd, Chairman Sun sent the Budget Committee agenda for tonight's meeting and the updated bylaws based on the actions of the May meeting. May 27th, Chairman Sun sent the RSA 91-A public meetings and town policies and procedures out. Matthew Sullivan sent the meeting minutes from the May 22nd meeting. However, it was noted that it was the April approved ones, so this evening we will not be voting on the May 22nd meeting minutes. Those will be dispersed, and we'll vote on them in the August or September meeting, whenever the next one is. June 6th, Kim Kleiner forwarded an invitation to the CHS graduation. June 19th, Chairman Sun sent the June 18th BA report and encumbrances update from the school board. And on June 20th, Heather Snaman sent the town budget report as of 6/20/2025, the May budgeted revenues, and the May special fund balances. And that is it as far as correspondence. I'll now open it up for public input. Seeing no one here, we'll close public input. We will have one other session at the end of the meeting. As I talked about during the correspondence, we will not be voting on the acceptance of the May 22nd minutes. Those will get dispersed and we'll vote on the next meeting, which brings us to town business. Mr. Brunel.
Let's see. Well, I guess top of it is budget. So budget season is beginning for us. All department heads have been working on their budget, and they're due to send it into the town administrator at the end of the month, July 28th, so we can meet the budget committee guidelines and deadlines and all that stuff. So we're working through that. Budget expenditures are still being monitored. We're running really tight on a default, which is being exacerbated by things like cruiser failures and extensive repairs that have to occur, and fuel costs. But we're working through it. So, it's tight. We'll see how it feels, how it completes at the end. As I said, police cruisers, we're still down 2 cruisers. We've had 2 other failures throughout the last 2 weeks. We've had to do some other repairs, but we're continuing to manage through that process. And that's it.
We replaced 2, and 2 are still failing.
We replaced 2? We replaced 1, and that one's still not in the fleet yet. Still waiting for fit up.
Well, I thought there was
One was in the budget, 2 were in the warrants, 1 passed warrant, 1 failed warrant.
right, so we'll have 2.
1, we have a default budget.
The warrant still passed, though.
1 warrant passed.
Oh, you're right, it was in the
So the
budget.
budget
Right,
was
you're right,
not.
you're right.
Correct, so we've been able to acquire the vehicle, the
Okay.
vehicle's here. It is in line with all the other fit-ups in the region, so we're still waiting. The reality of it is, and people should probably be aware that even if we acquire a vehicle today, it'll probably take 6 months before it's actually road ready. And that's, everything lines up.
But,
What?
so it passed in March, so if it takes 6 months to be road ready, shouldn't we be 3 months out?
We acquired the car. A month later, we got it. It should be, we would expect we'll start seeing it go into fit up in 3 months. That means it goes into fit up. It doesn't mean it's not done. It's going into the line to be built. It'll probably take 30 to 45 days to build it. So, we're still in the fall, this by the time that car goes on the road. And when we get to a point where we come forward with additional cruisers again, that's what we're up against. And at that time, I think we're gonna need more than 2.
For the ones that have failed prior
Mm-hmm.
and went into the shop to be fixed,
Yeah.
how many of them have survived and continued, and how many have had to go in for a second or third?
I think 2 of them are back there again. So they've been there for a while. They've come in and come out. They're back there. The last one was off the road for, I think, a week. It's been back on the road for about a week and a half, 2 weeks now at this point. So
So it's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
If it gets fixed, it may work, it may not.
But, well, at this point, we need the Band-Aids to get through.
No, I
right?
know.
So, yeah. Yeah, most of it's Band-Aids. A lot of it's not recommended. As I think the mechanic over at Edwards would say, we're rolling our dice. We think this will help, at least get it stretched some more. But overall, the cars are just not roadworthy in general, so.
What determines where they go to get fixed? I know they go to Edwards, it's just convenience.
It's not just about Edwards. We've had it out, the cars have gone all over the place. They've been to Cork, they've been down to, the other Chevy dealer down in Ashware. It's whoever can take the service. Sometimes it's going to Cork because we can potentially get the manufacturer to pay for some of the repairs or split the costs. That's why it goes there. It is about availability too.
Sure.
Edwards has been really good to the town as far as the PD goes, so they understand what we're up against and they're doing what they can, so.
Yeah.
It's been pretty cost effective.
How many cruisers in the fleet are considered to be at risk now that you have over a year of seeing which ones are failing and for what reason?
So there are six frontline cars, two of which are the newer, the rest are at risk.
So then obviously with the new one coming in this year, then you'll have
Yeah, that car's
three
already.
good, three you'll still be at risk.
Well, the challenge is the car that it replaced, that car's already been deadline, it doesn't even run. We can't even get it to run, so it's been off the road since.
So that wasn't part of the six.
No, so we had to pull,
So you're still gonna have four
Right.
after,
yeah, we had to take a car out of detail and bring it back into sort of quasi frontline service to help out. So, it's not a good spot, but we're working through it. And that's really about all of it. Everyone's seen the updates from the selectmen's meetings online.
That's nice, thank you.
Trying to continue to improve that.
What repairs are being done at Dara Town Hall?
The floor will be resurfaced. That
It
was
can be?
approved. They've had an engineering company come in and say they can, and they,
I thought the whole big thing was that we're at the end, we can't surface it
that
again.
that was what the rec commission,
that-
previous
right.
leadership
And that's
did
what I
tell.
asked, and that's what I asked too. I said, I've heard so many years that this floor cannot be reconditioned again, and that there were other issues at the sub-level. but
Right,
They've had an engineering company come in and expand, look at the underneath, and they all say it's fine. There was one place they had to fix,
right.
one beam.
That
and
dead
then,
spot,
And then this engineering company says there's plenty of surface left to resurface it.
Oh,
Yeah, I think it was 23,000 to do the whole thing, I think. Don't quote me, that may be wrong, it was 2 weeks ago, or almost a month ago, but, if it gets us another 5 to 10 years, I guess that we've got the money out of it, right? That building is used consistently during the fall and the winter, so
and the money's coming from where?
it's coming from the revolving fund.
Anything else for town? Hearing none. Mr. Cutter, school business.
No updates this evening, Mr. Chairman.
What's that? That's okay. Keep us on, keep us going.
That's all right, I got questions.
All right,
Never mind.
Solo's running.
Solo's running.
Just Solo's running, that's all you
It's
gotta
a
say.
noble effort, right? So on the school side, we're wrapping up our school fiscal year on Monday, which gets into our new fiscal year, which is a default budget for us. That being said, we are wrapping up our current fiscal year. I know the Budget Committee has been interested in some of the end-of-year balances. At this point, I have shared a link after our last school board meeting. What was reported is a remaining fund balance starting at $814,000, which is inclusive of $34,000 of revenue, which is over than what we anticipated. So that was our starting balance, $814,000. Most of that revenue and those expenses under budget is nearly all of it's associated to unfilled positions, largely associated to special education in those positions specifically.
And how much related to special ed directly?
I'd have to go back to the meeting and look. It was nearly 90% of that, significant,
Of the 814,
of the 780,
of the 780, 90% is related to special ed.
of the unfilled positions.
So when we talk about returning special ed funding and we encumber a bunch of that, then we're not returning the special ed underspend.
There was no commitment to return that this year.
I'm sorry, what?
There was no commitment to return special education this year.
We'll have to look at the meeting minutes, because I have a feeling we have the conversation every year, and there was a discussion. So, So this is why I have trust issues. We have this.
Trust issues.
Oh,
There
where-
was
where-
no commitment on that.
We'll go back and look at the meeting minutes,
Please
because I
do.
have a feeling that we had this conversation.
We had the conversation. My recollection is that we decided that, you know what, we did not need to have the handshake deal.
That is
And
correct.
part of the discussion was around, it's their budget, they can do what they want. If they want to go ahead and tell the public that they will go ahead and return underspend, that's a completely different story. But we had a very vehement argument.
Right, but my understanding, I will go back and look at the meeting minutes, because my recollection was there was a commitment that we would be returning unspent special ed. So I will check the meeting minutes, because I find it incredible that we have that much money related to special ed, underspend. So that tells me, again, we're not doing our job. If we have that much money in a line item that was once returned to taxpayers, but apparently is no longer, yeah, you can roll your eyes, but we are not doing our job.
Would you like me to present the rest of this?
Well, you answered an initial question, which is how much related to special ed? Because traditionally that gets returned, and now you're saying it again, it's not. This is the second time in 14 years that I've been here, 11 years I've been here, that has not happened. And that is incredibly disappointing.
You might recall, Ms. Douglas, the fact that even I drafted actually an agreement for consideration.
Well, look up the meeting minutes, because again, the understanding was.
That didn't pass.
We were generous with not taking reductions, because the understanding was it was still going back. So again, if this is the way we're gonna play this budget game, then this committee needs to be better about making sure we scrutinize every penny. Because if you're not gonna commit to returning it, then we should not commit to being overly generous.
Tell you what,
Because
why don't we
the
put a
numbers
pin
are
in it
crazy.
Until August, when we have a chance to review the meeting minutes, and then we have a source of truth.
Pretty certain the superintendent also said that the way he looks at the budget is as a budget. Not like, special ed. I thought he didn't
Then the
decipher.
committee members need to do the same and stop with the emotional, and then actually do the deep dive in the numbers.
Can I just
because we're not doing
ask
that.
again, what did you say the percentage was of the 780?
Significant,
90%.
approximately 90%,
But you said it's unfilled positions.
unfilled position.
That's not even the special ed budget, that's the salary and
Correct.
budget. The special budget we always talk about returning is the actual special ed budget, not the salary budget. Correct.
No, they used to be outlawed against special ed. It was,
But it's the bottom line special ed budget's like $1.5 million. That's the one we're always talking about. And that's where the money usually
talking
comes
about
back. It's usually
transportation.
tuition, it's
Yeah.
usually transportation. That's where the money usually comes
we
from.
will agree to disagree. Again, I find it incredibly disappointing.
Can I ask one question for a future meeting? The 90% is based on unfilled positions.
Yes.
Going into the next budget season, could you let me know, out of that 90% of the 780, how much of it the school board and the superintendent already reduced in this upcoming budget starting July 1st? Because it's my understanding that he had reduced X number of positions already, correct? Which obviously would not be reflected in
Correct.
this current.
Yeah, because they
And
removed like
There's-
10 pairs, right?
I can't remember what the number was or
Yeah.
the title, that's why I wanted to keep it
Well,
vague.
there
But
was
yes,
discussion
Andrew,
of-
if you
yeah.
could at least let me know in terms of how much of that, so that we're not double cutting. If he's already cut it, but that cut wasn't part of this year, but it is going to be in the upcoming year.
I forgot about that. That's a good point.
Got it.
Okay. Now, thank you, because both Brian and I needed a little clarification.
So moving into the next heated debate. So 814,000 is our starting point for end of year. Then we go right into transfers. The first transfer that we are obligated to fulfill is food service and the deficit of food service. That is currently sitting at $89,900.
So how much have we subsidized food service, including that number at this point? Because did we not already include 150,000 for last year?
Did we not already include 150,000 for last year? What was included in the budget was 100,000 last year.
So now we're up to $190,000 of taxpayer subsidization of the food service.
No, that was a plug. That number in the budget was set aside, right, to offset this. Now we're actually doing the transfer to make this budget whole.
So from the
It's not-
100, we only spent 90.
Correct. And this is the transfer now to make sure that that line is closed out. In addition to that, if you haven't watched the the school board meeting, which perhaps you haven't. We are considering changing the program at our next meeting. We are looking at not only changing prices, which is on the table for discussion, but also changing the structure of how Campbell specifically distributes and manages the program, shifting from the current program to more of an à la carte structure. So we'll see.
Nice, I've heard that other
What-
schools have had profitable experiences with that, so that'd be.
There are a couple of schools that have had success with that model, and we are definitely evaluating that, and that's going to be a point of discussion at our next meeting in July.
Is a good chunk of that 90,000 coming from Campbell?
Yes.
Okay.
What's our cost per meal on that?
So it varies. So we are currently at, what is it, $3.75 at Griffin. We are at $4 at the middle school and $4.25 at the high school. We are the highest in all of our cohort that we compare ourselves to for lunch prices. Any questions there? So taking that transfer, 89.9, that brings our remaining fund balance down to 724,000 and change. And then we go into voter-approved warrant articles from March, $2,253 to the employee benefits, as well as $200,000 to the Special Education Capital Reserve Fund. Taking those two into consideration, that takes us from $724,000 down to $521,916.
So I have a question there. The argument in favor of the $200,000 for the special ed fund was that we were gonna be tapping into the current fund. Did we do that?
No. There was no transfer from the current fund.
So then should there not be, there was a discussion that if we did not need it all, oh, you didn't transfer out.
Right.
There was no
Right,
transfer
they
out.
kept it in the budget and wanted to wait till the last possible minute, only if necessary to pull from.
That's
the
correct. There was
reserve
no
fund.
transfer out.
So there's, what, 300,000 now in that? How much is in that account at this point?
Did the special ed budget go over and you just absorbed it, or did it not end up going over?
It went over a bit and it was just absorbed in the under,
Okay.
in the fund end.
That's good to point out too then. So last year's budget, you actually
Right.
overspent it.
But again, he sat here and said he didn't want to do that, that he wanted to apply it against special ed direct in order to keep the numbers clear, that he did not want, that the superintendent did not want to go against the 110. So are we going against 110? Are we spending special ed on special ed? Like, I would request a consistent policy. If he's going to say that we are not tapping into the general fund, we are going to go into the special ed fund, then that is what we should do.
We have had significant changes to our special education with students in and out of our district, including recently, right, which has made this very hard to predict and very hard to manage.
Which is why he stated that he was gonna use his capital reserve fund and not go into the 110, so as to not commingle funds to make it clear as the actual expenses. So in doing so, we've muddied the waters and it's less clear.
Your question was how much is in the special education capital reserve fund?
Because the anticipation was at the end of the year, we'd still have 200,000. We would use what we need and then return what we didn't. And if we didn't need it, then we're sold a bill of sale.
So at the end of May, special education capital reserve fund was sitting at $168,000.
Right, so the conversation that was had was one that we didn't need to have because the scaremongering didn't, it just, again, it was, we were gonna tap into it, we need this money to replenish it and bring it back to 200. We're gonna have, we know we're tapping into it. Then not only do we not tap into it, we've increased it far beyond what was expected to be done. It's just this kind of stuff, trust issues.
It's going back to the encumbrances. Obviously, that 200,000 was
Approved.
voter mandate.
I'm not
Right.
sure what the trust issue
But
is
the
there.
conversation about that, the reason why this board supported it was because we were tapping into the educational reserve fund, because we were gonna go over, we were gonna pull it all over into the general budget. We were gonna raise $200,000 for the warrant article, and then return to the taxpayers through this, what we didn't need. And so, not only did we not need to touch it in the beginning, we've added to a fund. It's just, the argument that was made back during budget season is not what we see here, and it's very disappointing. So it calls into question, the next time I'm told, we need it, I'm gonna go pound sand. You don't need it.
Now, again, I think during the August meeting, give everybody a chance to review the minutes. So that way there's a source of truth that we're going by. In terms of if there was a promise going back to the taxpayers.
Let the minutes,
I know I fought
let the
against it.
minutes record, pound sand. There you go. All right, next up in the encumbrances, we have actually encumbrances, the board action, starting with GMS HVAC units. We've had 2 HVAC units on our portables fail towards the end of the school year. Those replacements, and most of these have quotes next to them, were $35,000 to replace those units. Those portables are going to be continuous with us for the next at least several years, so those need to be fixed. Next up is soffit repair. This is significant damage to the back of GMS building and holes in the building. That is $24,980.
And that is what's needed to prevent like birds and other
Yes.
visitors from
And
joining.
there's like rot damage and.
Too late.
Yep. Yep.
Well, I mean, at least we're addressing it.
GMS ramp repair, and so this was actually an inspection issue for the district that needs to be corrected. So this is the wooden ramps that go into the portables need to be corrected due to damage and due to being undersized.
I would think that we would have an opportunity to talk to the architect who spec'd that one, because if it doesn't pass inspection, what the heck? Like, we put these in, and now you're telling us it doesn't pass inspection.
Well,
Did the rules change, or did we not install it correctly?
it's also because of like wear and,
Oh,
and damage
okay.
and rot.
But if
and-
you're telling me a portion of it is it's undersized, that's a design issue,
It's also a state standard issue that is.
which an architect should be aware of. Errors and omissions, my friend. So it's just one of those, to me, we should have a conversation, like, how did you design me a thing that doesn't, a design that doesn't pass?
Trying to correct the problem.
Again, if it's designed incorrectly, sure, correct it. But the question is, why should the taxpayers pay for an error made by a design authority?
From several years ago.
Well, then why wasn't it, again, we can have this conversation. It's in, to me, that's, it needs to be fixed. I agree. But I think we need to be, instead of immediately going to the taxpayer for these things, like, who truly is at fault? So, moving on.
GMS pipe leak repairs. So there's sections of pipe in the back of the building that have been causing some issues within the building itself and significant plumbing problems that need to be repaired. And so there's a quote there to do so. Moving into row 14 and 15, there's some floor repairs necessary to repair kitchen floor as well as some flooring repair around the GMS cooler that have been damaged.
Does that get wrapped into the consideration of the food service budget?
No.
So we need this to provide food service, but it's not part of the food service line item.
So you're asking if this is hitting the food service actually account number?
Well, when I'm factoring in how much it costs to operate food services, wouldn't maintenance of the
Let me
food
validate
service
that and
area-
where that's hitting.
So I'm just curious, as we factor in pricing and what we go forward, are these expenses that need to be captured into that, into the operating of that
Let
system?
me ask.
But wouldn't we
Let me
also
validate
just look
that.
at it as the LMS kitchen renovation?
This is
That
GMS.
wasn't, no, the LMS one.
There
That
was-
that wasn't part of food service.
That was a different, there was work done in the past that was applied against food services. So like when we had surpluses, way back when, it was used to renovate the space.
Okay.
Which is how it should be. I mean, it's a food service supposedly.
It was ever
something-
used for renovation, it was used for equipment,
Yeah, I remember buying stoves and stuff and hoods and stuff like that with that money.
but not renovations.
This is due to a food inspect, I would just be curious as to how that budget is factored, because if this space is dedicated to food services, I would think that it should be included, it should be factored into the cost of the program.
So floor repair. Okay, let me figure that out. LMS bathroom repairs. So the bathrooms, and this is specifically the sinks within within the LMS building itself, are original to the building, and they definitely need to be replaced. That is $14,000.
Are they automatic syncs?
Are they automatic? No,
On, off? No.
no. No bells and whistles, just replacing really in like kind with what's there. The nurse countertop is damaged, and that needs to be fixed as well. $1,500. The LMS volleyball net replacement, this was a discussion point during the budget season. The board actioned that for $3,798. The current net, if you may recall, is no longer usable and does need to be replaced. Then the board took a number of safety encumbrances, including new PAs for GMS and for LMS. Both of those were $1,987, as well as the installation of cameras at GMS, LMS, and CHS. This is not the purchase of cameras, this is the installation of those cameras.
Didn't we already have cameras?
The cameras were actually acquired already through grant.
And I thought we installed cameras many years ago.
We have cameras. These cameras were acquired through a grant, and they've been sitting in the IT director's office for several months, and now we want to install them in blind spots at each of the buildings.
So they're to supplement the existing system.
Correct. Correct.
How many?
Quite a few. Within the quotes, it actually gives you the counts. We were actually going through that the other day. I think there was like 6 at GMS, and there's a handful at each of the buildings.
You actually need cables for them, they're not just all wireless?
There's cables, yeah.
You need to run
Power.
power.
Oh, power I get, but like
So
that should be
typically what-
Wi-Fi.
Typically, it's PoE with the data cable being part of it.
I guess you kind of want it more of a closed system, so grandma, or so somebody weird can't be like, oh, look at what I see. Like the baby monitors that get picked up elsewhere.
Moving along, radios. So this is some new radios for the district, including one for the superintendent, who does not have a radio, surprisingly.
Are they really $1,000 a piece?
Yes.
Yes,
Why?
they're the commercial grade radios.
Yeah, I have some questions about why all of this stuff costs as much as it does. I just searched for volleyball nets, and it seems like they go for a couple $100s. Why are we paying $4,000 for a volleyball net?
School. It's a professional volleyball net for actually.
For game.
I mean,
for
is there
games.
anything different about it that makes it better than all the other ones? It looks about the same in the picture.
That I don't know.
I'm just curious what makes this volleyball net worth $4,000.
And it has to, I know it has to anchor into the floor through the, whatever system that they have. And
So this is not just a net, this is part of the piping, the whole.
Correct.
everything,
Yeah,
the whole
it's
system.
floor mount, right?
Yeah.
So they're replacing the whole mounts?
Yes, it's the whole system that goes into the LMS gym floor.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So Andrew, you said that the superintendent didn't have a radio. Who were the other 5 people that didn't have radios? Or is it additional radios, meaning like you're swapping some out and, oh, by the way, we gotta make sure that we get the superintendent one?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not additional, it's 6
It is
additional radios, but we're gonna swap out 5.
No, I think it's
Five?
it's an expansion, right? So it's 6 additional. One's going to the superintendent. Not every teacher, not every classroom
Sure.
has radios. So this is an expansion of who has radios across the district. One of which is going to the super.
I would encourage us to really shop those around, because to me, $1,000 a radio seems ridiculous.
First off, you can't shop it around, it's part of a bigger system within town, it's Motorola based, you're paying the Motorola tax, if you wanna call it that. That's the price of the radio.
And it's not, if it's Motorola, is it a radio or is it a phone?
It's a radio.
They get synced up.
It integrates into our, we call our LMR system, which is coverage for the whole town. So anywhere in the school system, they can reach out to PD, to fire, and they can talk from school to school and also within school.
Not all their radios do that though, correct?
All the radios can do that now.
So,
For the school? Okay, I didn't know.
do do the people who are being issued radios also have school-issued phones?
Phones don't work inside the school walls for the most part.
And not always, because, I mean, paras will carry radios and stuff like that. I think the recess monitors carry radios and
They
stuff
do it
too.
on the
Yeah.
property at recess.
Why
So
don't
they definitely
phones
don't have
work
phones.
inside school?
Because of the construction of the walls.
Can't it just use Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi calling, trust me, is not very reliable in Campbell.
I don't know.
for
I
example.
ended up with good coverage, 2 stories underground. I still puzzles
I
me
can I can
why
tell
we
you
can't
firsthand,
get.
many
You can.
times going
So
into
you
Campbell High
can.
School and you get
You
nothing.
can.
The gym, you get.
Well, I understand that you get nothing, but I don't understand why we are okay saying that you can't be done when it can be done.
Sure, it's an investment. If you wanna light up the school for cell traffic within the 4 walls, you install what they call a BDA type system. This borrow the signal from the cellular into the building. That costs. I put one for the public safety, it cost me $40,000 at high school.
But you could just put some Wi-Fi hotspots for considerably less money.
That would require the school to have a separate network for those Wi-Fi hotspots.
Why?
Cause there's regulations they have to follow from us, not CGIS, but the CSIS perspective when it comes to school and students and their access to the internet and how they get access.
Well, that should be resolved pretty soon.
I mean, you can put a password on it.
But
This
when
is not a technically difficult thing to do.
When
think
you're
we're off
talking, when you're
topic.
talking
Yeah.
safety, when you go over a Motorola radio to radio out to the police department or fire department, you have continuous communication with all 3 or 4 groups. They can hear you at once. You're not picking up the phone. Hold on, let me call you back. Hello? Hold on, let me call you back.
Yeah.
They want to be able to
Well, it
talk to
doesn't
each
have
other.
to be a phone call. I
That was
mean,
the whole
there's
reason they went with
thousands
those
of
radios.
options
Yeah.
for messaging over Wi-Fi.
No, and I understand the point, but I also get concerned that we get so used to like, oh yeah, it's this. We don't think about advancing technology and leveraging what's available. We shouldn't just be approving things every year simply because we approved them the year before. There's absolutely value in asking, well, technology advances, are we actually leveraging it? And if the answer is no, fine. But we should be questioning these, especially knowing the outrage we're gonna see come Christmas when people get their second bill.
Well-
So we need to be able to, we should be scrutinizing every line. You know-
So 2 points and I'll move on. I'll say the same thing to this committee that I would say to the public when they come in. If you want to argue about if the radios are the right fit or the type of camera is the right fit, I encourage you to go to a school board meeting, ask those questions there, because they're the people that are making the decision. This is their money. You can now at this point decide, going into the next budget season, that, you know what, if you feel like that they are overspending on things, cut their budget so they won't have the same type of surplus next year then. But if you want to get into the nitty-gritty details about could it be a phone or a radio, go to a school board meeting and talk to them about it.
I'm asking about the budgetary impact. I think I'll ask here, but thank you. Moving on.
Moving on, floor stripper, the actual machine.
So this is our second one.
This is the first one. So if you recall, in the budget season, we had the first of what was planned to be the first year 1 of 3.
I thought the first one was last year's.
No. So this is now hopefully getting into year 1 for one of the schools. Next year will be another school, and the third year will be the third school. So this is replacement of those floor strippers, which have an extended life of many years.
Do we have a quote for the next one?
GMS panic doors, there is a quote, it is being revised.
Okay.
This was part of the facilities discussions.
It was a comment made, but there was, again, I haven't seen a quote or anything related to this. I know doors are expensive.
The
I get
quote
that.
was actually for 9 doors,
Okay.
and it was significantly, it was $68,000. The board was not comfortable with that, and so the discussion was, let's replace in action kind of the immediate 4 that are really questionable and truly pose a safety issue for the students. And so that was about half, which is why you see the 32,000.
They're double doors?
They are. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I get, you can encumber whatever you want, but something of this magnitude, I would hope would be backed up by an actual quote.
So that quote is being revised. Yep.
What exactly is a panic door alarm? Like, what is it?
It's like a safety protocol so kids can't run out. It's a whole mechanism so kids can't run out onto the, into 3A,
Okay.
right? So it's gonna be the doors going out to the portables and like proximity to the 3A side of
The
the
front.
side of the building.
So they won't open them at all, or it sets off an alarm, which,
Both,
okay.
yeah, both. It's a special like key to be able to unlock it when school's in session.
They doing a calf also?
Whatever the 4 doors Mr. Mitchell decided.
And is that cell highlighted because you're waiting for a revised quote, or does the highlighting mean something else?
We are waiting for a revised quote. The
Okay.
board did encumber the 32,000, but a revised quote is necessary for this one. Yep. Critical response mapping is one that we talked actually quite a bit about. This is one that was endorsed by the police department and fire department. This is, and there's a quote associated or a diagram associated to this one as well. This is one that maps all the schools and puts all the schools into a true north system. So if you think about yes, important for our police and our fire, but more relevant for mutual aid and other agencies coming in the event of an emergency. They know pinpointing where to go specifically in a building who are not familiar with our buildings based upon this system of mapping, which is a common mapping across the industry. So this will be gridding the buildings in a very clear and precise manner. So if there is an emergency, the fire department and police department will know specifically where to go within a building based upon this grid.
And is there a recurring cost, or would it be updated,
Well, there's a recurring cost for each school to ensure maps are up to date.
I could see doing that with a renovation, but annually, how much do our buildings really change?
Yeah, I think it's very minor, minimal.
Okay.
Next up is the LMS fields. So these are the fields next to Griffin Memorial that are actually on the LMS property, both baseball and softball fields that are in need of work. This is going to rototill and replace the what's referred to as diamond mix on both of those fields.
And how often do we have to replace that mix?
Well, it's been many years since it's been
No,
replaced.
So one of the things I did, and we can talk about when we get there, is the long-term planning of capital improvements. So sure, it hasn't been done in a while, but when do we need to plan to do it again?
Yeah.
So is it a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year? It'd be good to understand. Okay, we want to pay
With
for
proper maintenance
Yeah.
and proper rototilling on a yearly basis, right, this is at least 10 years,
Okay,
right? That's the key. So it doesn't become hard
yep.
and it becomes, actually like a soft dirt that kids can slide upon and play upon. Like that's the goal. It's become so compacted and so like cement-like. It's at a point of no return at the moment.
So we will be working this into our maintenance plan to ensure that we do get longer life out of it?
Yes. Yep. GMS carpet replacements. So this is replacing throw rugs, if you will.
Okay.
Not actually like wall-to-wall
I
carpeting.
was gonna say, because do you really want wall-to-wall carpet?
This isn't
That's
wall-to-wall carpeting. This is, throw rugs or area rugs within several classrooms at GMS.
So I do have one question on that. I thought that was approved in this upcoming budget. Did that have to get stripped out because
It
you
was
had to
stripped
go
out
to a
as a
default, and
default.
that's why you're putting it here?
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure it wasn't that and you were gonna be doing it as part of the budget.
Nope, that was stripped out as a default.
And we have to make sure that they're approved by the fire department and all that other stuff for. I just know that things have gotten burned at our school by the fire department to prove how nicely and quickly they burn.
I'm
So-
sure Mr. Mitchell's got a
So
plan for
making
all
sure that they
that.
have the appropriate fire retardant stuff on it.
GMS replacement room divider. This was actually Mr. Mitchell's number one item. There's a room divider that is significantly aged, separating a room and a partition that needs to be replaced. That's $2,400. And then a few classroom cabinets also at GMS that
Can we
definitely need
update
to be
the
replaced.
comments, because it's a copy and paste from above, so that was confusing.
Yeah, that wasn't there the other day, so something got carried down. in
Because I was
error
like,
there.
why do we need cabinets if we're putting in dividers?
Yeah, and something got carried down there in error. But yeah, so the cabinets are, like file cabinets.
Is that divider also in the original budget?
Well, that's, we might default though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was, but it's default, so it got stripped out. The LMS carpet is actually carpet. So LMS carpet is in the music room. That was not replaced as a part of the LMS updates. And that does need to be
Didn't
replaced.
they originally plan to do it though?
I'm sorry?
I thought they had originally planned to replace the carpet.
They did, that did not get complete as a part of the upgrades at LMS. It is at end of life. LMS refinished gym floor, so this is not the sanding of that.
Okay.
This is like re-urethaning, if you will, and waxing that floor, which is why it's only $2,200 to do. So it's, essentially recoating it for the next year.
Are we looking at, so it was not theirs that needs to be replaced, it's GMS? No, it is theirs, isn't it? I thought there was talk about one of
LMS
them-
is the one that's at end of life as well. Yeah.
Unless we pull in the same people that took a look at that.
Seriously.
Right.
Let that person say, oh, guess what, you still got plenty.
LMS stage floor, so this is just actually LMS stage, which is in the cafeteria at LMS. This is just refinishing that and recoating it, $600. And next up is probably an interesting conversation, is the LMS cell phone cabinets.
My only question is why only LMS? Why not CHS and GMS?
So we actually, GMS cell phones aren't really a thing at elementary school.
Really?
According to Mr. Mitchell.
Don't believe it, but
But
okay.
but the law, though, isn't gonna apply to elementary school?
So the
'Cause
law-
even if it's not
So-
it's not an issue, but if the law says you have to have it, then
So stay with me,
Yep.
right? So the actual amount that was recommended here by the district was $5,000. Okay, the board encumbered this very specifically pending legislation being passed, right? So this money is set aside, but we're only intending to use it pending legislation being
I
passed.
thought it already got signed.
It did it?
I thought it did.
As of last meeting, it didn't. These are actual individual, call them little lockers, fairly inexpensive compared to some of the other systems out there that are magnetic and you put each phone
Yeah.
in individually.
And then kids figure out how to demagnetize, so it's pointless. They're gone.
Right. So these you actually put into the little locker and you lock them, and it's really one for each classroom within LMS. We've increased that to $7,500 from $5,000. So we have some options for Campbell, or if there's a better or alternate system that we should be looking at, we have a little bit of additional money to figure that out.
Saying shoe racks work well too.
I didn't know it, I read it, it's kind of fascinating,
So-
that's me.
Yeah.
so not the merit of
Yeah.
it, but just the
What if you text my
timing.
kid or something?
So you're trying to encumber
That's why you're buying those radios.
if you have to spend that money by when? Because I just took a look, so right now the Senate conference is not agreeing with the House,
Oh, it didn't get signed, huh?
so it's not signed yet. We get to July 1st, and it's still up in the air. Would you have to buy it June 30th to encumber it?
Well,
And then if the bill never passes, are you sitting on
We're
$7,500
we're
worth of
sitting,
junk?
yeah, we're sitting on $7,500 until the board takes action otherwise.
So it'll
realistically,
sit in limbo into your new fiscal year, and then you can.
but there's nothing saying that even if it doesn't pass, the school can't implement its own policy, realistically.
Well, but if the justification is that it's based on a law,
Correct.
How about scientific studies? Like, if we shouldn't even need a law.
The monies you encumber right now, you have to have a contract or something in place come June 30th. Correct? You can't just say you're gonna put $7,000 aside for something later. You have to have a contract.
We have to have a reason for putting it aside. In this case, it's state legislation pending.
Because in that case, then we're in trouble,
my
because
mole
the
working on
doors
it.
may not have a,
Got my mole working on it.
The,
$32,000 doors.
no, that I'm expecting an updated quote on tomorrow.
Okay.
If the law doesn't pass, what's the school board's take on the cabinets? Are they for them? I mean,
If the law doesn't pass, I don't know.
you don't know.
Yeah. I would anticipate us not spending that money,
Yeah.
regardless of my personal opinion.
No, that's why I'm asking on behalf of the board. I wasn't sure if there's this discussion.
But we should also keep an eye on that, because my understanding is if it passes, there are some legislators who are encouraging the state to help fund the solution too.
Yeah, okay.
That'll happen.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there are discussions, you don't know, you don't know.
Might have to give us some money for education.
So just on that point, Andrew, if you could just get clarification that it is.
We can have
all
that
three
discussion with
schools
declining
or
enrollments.
At least LMS and CHS, instead of it just saying LMS.
That is definitely just LMS at the moment. That is not inclusive of CHS, but we increased it from the original 5,000 to 7,500 in the event that there's a different system or we need additional units for options at
Okay.
Campbell High School.
So part of that 7,500 has a base cost just for the system itself. And then your incremental to add CHS is not adding, under your scenario, you're not adding another 5,000 for CHS. Part of that 5,000 for LMS is part of the core system, and then there's incremental that you can spill over to CHS and GMS.
That's right.
Okay. That's fine.
Worst case, you get a $5 sugar back. Work great.
Discovery Education subscription. So this is actually something that really should be in the budget that we've learned, but hasn't made it into the budget. So Dr. Taylor had spoken highly of this in usage of this.
Do we currently use that system?
Yes, very highly. And it's currently offset by grant. But that being said, we're not sure that this is the Department of Education is going to cover this. And so we're encumbering the money given the high usage of this subscription.
And if the state does fund it, then it gets,
It'll be put into
Return.
revenue. Yep. The next three items are replacement of desks, chairs, and tables at GMS and LMS, and just continuing the updates of very aged.
and these are ones that were in the budget but were pulled out because of default.
That's correct. That's correct.
I'd like the story on the next one.
The next one, CHS hallway painting.
Who's the two, and why do we need to, is the only reason to make it all one color?
So this isn't just one specific hallway. This is mostly the entire first floor of Campbell High School,
Okay,
just for point of reference, including stairwells.
okay.
And this is to start a cycle of refreshing the paint within our buildings in the administration in keeping up with the maintenance of painting within our buildings, which we don't have a plan for, but now we're trying to get into a plan of maintenance in doing.
So basically,
You don't have a quote for that either, right?
This is this is an estimate from Dave Ross. This is, the estimate that we had was about actually, there was a link here before. It was 100 gallons of paint.
So they're doing the labor, it's just the supplies.
Correct.
Oh, maintenance is gonna do it?
Correct.
Sounds terrible. I hate painting. It's a lot of painting.
Hire some.
The last time they painted was the prisoners.
Yeah.
Let's let the art class do it.
Who didn't get up on a ladder, which is why there's two colors right now.
Learn skill.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
get those stilts I saw my tapers using today.
So who were the two? The two was Mr. Plansky and who was the other one? I'd have to go back and look.
Not you?
It wasn't not me. I voted in
Now
favor
you
for
gotta
it.
go watch the meeting.
I voted in favor for it because of the beginning of a cycle for maintenance.
I hear you. But if we're in defaults, then I worry that we're committing to a cycle we can't continue.
But isn't that the reason why our schools are in the state they are in?
Well,
They don't take the money invested and actually go through
we
with it?
can discuss plenty of reasons as to why our schools are in the state they're in. I don't think
Gary,
it
just
has
a
to
few
do
minutes
with.
ago, you were talking about having a schedule for maintenance, and now.
I do, but if
You're
we're-
trying to do a schedule for maintenance, and you're against it.
No, I'm in favor of it overall, but we don't have a plan. We're starting at half, you
You
know.
have to start somewhere to have a plan.
Sure.
I don't think you
just
can
start at the
dictate-
wall.
I don't think you can dictate to the town and or the school what the plan should be. If you wanna do that, you should probably join one of those boards and help make that decision.
But again, my concern is you want us to, well, fine, you can do that. And when they say, why do we spend $8,000 for painting on a plan we don't have? I'm like, plans in development, we got ahead of ourselves. So again, I'm
Let's
not,
start
and my comment is, yes, we should begin maintenance. The reason where the funding source is not, well, one, we don't have a plan, but there are, I seem to recall we paid off a high school that we were supposed to put money towards maintenance. How well did that work out for us? Did that money actually go towards maintenance? Because the answer is no.
They've done quite a bit.
Well, yeah, but if we put $250,000 into maintenance every year for the past 8 years, wow, we'd be in a great position.
I just don't know if making hallways all one color is really considered to be maintenance.
And that's an aesthetics.
I mean, the group of us have all had kids going through there recently.
I never noticed.
Exactly. I've not gone through there and gone, oh, this is in really rough shape. Matter of fact, I mean, then at that point, you're gonna lose pretty much most of the murals that
Well, there's
previous
that
classes
and-
have painted on those walls then.
And to me, like, yeah, I get it. It's a little,
It's not
Like-
maintenance.
it's a facelift, sure, but when we're spending limited funding, is painting a hall to save it from 2 colors, as opposed to making sure all of our microscopes work the right priority? I don't know. But that's not my choice, apparently.
I agree that maintenance is fixing a soffit so stuff doesn't get into the school.
But this is a,
Routine painting would be maintenance, but
Yes.
the wording of this one, I get your point, all one color thing. Are the multiple colors in good shape? And then it's not maintenance, to your point.
Andrew, I bet you can change that a little bit.
Or like I would
Piece
look
of-
at it in terms of like back a few years ago, Talent Hall had to have an interior paint done. But that was because that particular paint didn't pass fire code because it wasn't fire retardant. That would be something that I would look at that, okay, the fire retardant paint has ended its useful life. You must throw on another coat of paint per the fire department rules. Slapping some more white paint on cinder blocks, I don't know.
again, it's one,
That one's $80 a gallon.
I can be sold on most of the other
I don't-
things, but this one just, it makes it, again, it's not like we can stop you, but the reality is, the story, that you were gonna go to voters, that's not a compelling one.
But that's a them problem.
That's
It's
a
not
bad
an us
problem. You're right. But
Just
I
no
can
golf
at least
cart.
say, I
Just no golf
stated
cart.
my opposition.
So that's true. So what you're not seeing here is that there was also a presentation of another, of a golf cart that the board did not action.
So because we didn't do one thing that made no sense, we should be able to go do something else that may not make sense?
I'm just saying.
That doesn't,
There are other items here that you are not seeing that.
but I did see them earlier and sent my comments.
Okay, well, you just have a comment for everything, Ms. Douglas, don't you?
I
So,
do.
Yeah,
I don't deny that.
well, as you said, pound sand, right? So.
Oh,
Anything else for school business?
At the end of the day, the remaining fund balance projected to go to taxpayers, $274,186. So after all encumbrances, 274,000 is what's projected.
so looking on the previous tab, there's still things like the robot field liner. Is that in here somewhere? Did that get pulled out?
The board did talk about that at our last meeting, and we did vote 5-0 to keep the robot.
So is the 16,000 is this year's cost for it?
The 16,000 is this year's cost for it.
Well, good for you. Let's see.
So with the 274,000 going back to the taxpayers, I'm gonna ask now, so that way when it comes budget season, am I gonna get hit with this is a capital expense that we absolutely positively must have, it's a safety problem, I'm evil if I cut it, before you go giving back the $274,000. Because I don't want I don't want you, to be honest, I don't want to see the give back to the taxpayer, but then hold me hostage that I can't take a look at something on the budget because it's life-saving that you could have bought with encumbrances for this year, but you're trying to throw into the budget next year and make me look like the bad guy for cutting it.
Yeah, I'd have to give that some thought. I think in transparency to the budget committee, the school board is having a meeting tomorrow, public meeting, 3:30, just because we want to make sure that before we close out the books on Monday, that we have one final picture of truly what the end of year is. The administration's new, right? And we want to make sure that these numbers are up to date and truly reflective of what the end fund balance is going to be. These numbers that I'm presenting to you are now a week old. And so I want to make sure that they're up to date and that the board has that chance to talk about perhaps any changes to this.
Right, well, I still have a couple questions on the first tab.
Can I just add one?
Go ahead.
Additional piece. So,
tab is she talking
one thing that I would be looking for
I don't see
is
more
this
tabs.
really,
Look at
everything that you look at as far as
No,
GMS?
it's the appropriations.
Is there anything else GMS-wise? That would be kind of
more
like my
tabs. I see
ask,
tabs.
the last consideration. Is there anything else GMS repair-wise that you could potentially put that 274 behind before giving it back to the taxpayers? Because I think it comes out loud and clear across the community that, look, whether you're for or against the school, nobody wants to see the kids in the school with the condition that it's in. So I think this is a great opportunity to, take advantage of.
But have the, roll
If
on.
you've got another good-sized repair that you could use this for, I think you'd have the public back.
So the one item that the board is contemplating that we do not have a quote on yet, and it's not in here, and is part of the on-site insight reports, if you recall, is the repairs to Campbell. Right, actually, you don't really see much of anything in here for
To
Campbell.
what magnitude?
We don't know yet, that's the issue. Right, so we're waiting on the quote to come in. I don't know if it's gonna come in tomorrow or not, which is part of our challenge.
Could you do the same thing like we talked about with the cell phone stuff? Could you allocate it that it's tagged for Campbell repairs, tie it to the on-site insight report as a, like, look, this isn't just something fake. We've got $200,000. We're waiting for the exact quote on it, and then if for some reason they come back at 150, or they come back with a quote that says 400,000 or nothing, and you don't have that, then you could go ahead and reallocate those funds?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know the answer
I
to
think
that.
you wanna be very careful in doing that, especially since I'm not the only one in town with trust issues. So if you're going to, it kinda looks like you're playing games with money, and it's not gonna be good for future requests. Like, if we don't have quotes, we don't even have an order of magnitude. We are 4 days from the end of the month, like, what, I'm stunned that we're even contemplating this.
So
But-
one of the items that comes to mind is the LMS parking lot.
Oh.
I know there was discussion, we're supposed to be getting quotes as far as,
But then you have a
I
parity
don't understand
issue.
why we don't take care of the parking lot.
So, in transparency to the budget committee, that is something being contemplated as well, and we're gonna be talking about that tomorrow.
But then we put GMS, when we did that parking lot, on a warrant article, and now you're gonna bypass that and just do it out of end-of-year funds?
I am not suggesting that at all. I'm suggesting there's going to be a conversation about it.
I would
It's
think,
somewhat a safety issue.
There's actually just this past week, a large sinkhole opened up at LMS, again,
same spot?
different spot. And that's brought to light this whole issue once again for us.
So is it in the parking lot?
It
Like,
is in the parking lot,
The upper or the lower?
upper.
Your car will go boom.
So, I mean, look, the LMS parking lot's failing.
does
We
have
all
a
know
cruiser
it.
down
There's
there.
no question about it. It does need to be
Lost another one.
repaired, replaced at some point in the near future, right? And that is definitely gonna be a point of discussion.
I would just, so regardless of my feelings, I'd be very cautious about going through the encumbrance method, because there's gonna be people like, we didn't have a conversation about this, we didn't know about this, this is just pushed through without being a discussion. Especially when you're already at, what, 274, your budget is based on a return of 200. if you spend more than 74,000, the estimated tax rate will go higher than expected, and it's
Agree.
already going to be problematic.
Agree.
So expenses of that size and magnitude really should warrant a larger discussion than 2.5 days. But my questions, I don't know, maybe I have an older one I downloaded. There was, on the first tab, about rekeying GMS. Did we not go to card swipes a while ago?
No.
Not the whole building's all cuts, but things.
There was a safety warrant article years ago because we didn't know where all the keys were, so we were going to card swipes. So that did not get implemented.
I don't believe so. I mean, we had a warrant article or an encumbrance to rekey GMS for
No, this
for the maintenance.
was many, like when the fence was approved for the GMS portables. At the time, there was discussion about, we have keys out in town, we don't know who has them, let's move to key
I mean, we
swipes.
have, like, I have like a badge, like an
Right.
electronic badge, and that lets me into the building. Is that
Okay.
what you're referring to?
Sure, so then why, so is that what you're doing to rekey GMS, or you're doing physical keys?
Rekey.
Right, rekey, so there was a discussion.
No
about-
keys, we didn't do that. They did CHS and LMS, and GMS was not done.
Correct.
With the hopes of changing the building, so they held off on it. I know
And
the
now-
other two schools did, and they
That's
have a
right.
listing now of everyone who has keys, and it's all more secure. But GMS, you still walk around with 6,000 keys.
All right, well, yeah, the conversation back then was to rekey them all, because nobody knew who, like, there are keys in the community that nobody knows has them. So it just didn't, it was discussed, it was approved, it just didn't get fully done. All right, that's good.
No, it wasn't approved, because it didn't go after GMS, CHS and LMS.
All right. Let's see, and then,
Wasn't that a long time ago?
that's what I'm just saying, so I'm surprised to see rekeying when my understanding is we went to.
Where, I'm sorry, where are you seeing that?
She's got an old version of the spreadsheet.
I downloaded this
I'm like,
today.
where are you looking
Yeah,
at this?
no one has that.
I downloaded this today, so if it's changed, it's changed. I downloaded it off your link in the email.
So she has access to the appropriation revenue tab, which we don't.
Okay.
So,
If you look at the summary,
I don't
you'll
even
see
have that. I clicked the link and I don't even see that.
well, I have no idea how I got it, because I'm pretty sure I clicked one of your
I don't
links.
even know what you're looking
It's,
at.
it's right here, but I think we don't have.
Yeah, everybody else is grayed out.
No, I don't even see it.
Again, I clicked a link somewhere, because then they're also, well
Well, why
then,
don't you go to the right link, because you're like,
why? Because I have another question about money transferred for capital project overages, and I'm interested to know what went over on a capital project.
I don't know what
we
you're
have the
referring
list
to.
in front of us.
Again, she's looking at the appropriations revenue.
Capital project overruns is different, I don't have a list of capital project overruns.
Nor do
And-
we.
And then, all right, so I will apparently send you the email I have, because there's a question of 9,200 with a no idea.
The
So-
stuff on the appropriation revenue, that's FY 24-25, that's last year.
All right. Okay. Well, it's even more troubling than we didn't, no, 25, FY 25 appropriations. So, all right, I clicked one of the links in your email. So that's why I had questions. I still have questions, but I guess they won't be fully answered to my satisfaction. All right, then a question would be going forward, since we're on a default budget, my understanding is that there's new state requirements for financial reporting at meetings. Are we okay financially to handle that? So presumably there's increased costs.
What are those state?
They were talking about, line graphs that have to be included with average teacher compensation, average stuff that was recently approved. So just making sure that we understand, are there any, well, if it's new to you, then I would make sure that we check for any changes to, state reporting compliance, and how does that affect our budget?
Yeah.
And then what does our kindergarten enrollment look like for next year?
We are currently sitting at 61, and we are proceeding with 4 teachers, not 5. That was that as of last week.
So what's the policy number to go to 5? What do you have to, is it 74?
Depends if you use
I'll
18
look
or
it
you
up.
use
Yeah, I
20.
have to go back and look.
All right, those are my major ones.
The teacher trigger is 77 for kindergarten. As of June 18th, we were at 61.
Anything else on, school? Member input, new business? Any members have anything before we get into school facilities and capital improvement? Hearing none, school facilities.
So we met on the 19th, June 19th. They discussed the RFP status, and bids are due by July 3rd. Let's see, the next meeting will be on the 8th, where the FIC can presumably take a look at those bids before a decision is finally made. The bylaws were reviewed, organizational structure, all that fun stuff. The meeting frequency was discussed, and they are moving to the second Tuesday, so this was why, in order to provide a more consistent scheduling instead of Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday. So second Tuesday will be the current plan. Come as needed, there will be more meetings, but currently that's where we are. There was a discussion about the long-term capital funding and planning, which again, I am all in favor of. I've been lobbying for one for 10 years. But there was a discussion of how it was presented. I don't know if the superintendent presented to you after or initially, because there was a line item in the one that was presented that had end-of-year funds and so many dollars allocated toward paying for items, which I expressed my discomfort with, because it looks like we are, padding the budget a little bit, because we know we're gonna have $250,000 left to pay for end-of-year expenses. Like, if we're already banking on it.
I want to spend my time my way.
If we're already banking,
Simply because it works for me.
Sorry, hold on.
no problem.
There we go.
If
I
we're,
did find your warrant article, by the way.
oh, you did? No, it was the discussion involved with the warrant article. But if we're already including our budgeting to rely on an X number of dollars, well, then there's an assumption that there's that much already built into the budget. And as a budget committee, we should be advocating for lean budgets. And so so my concern was that by labeling it as end-of-year funding, then we don't have that appearance. Now, we could have a list, I did agree that we could have a list of prioritized items that could be placed against end of year, so we're not receiving the encumbrance list in the middle of June, but we would go in knowing, hey, if at the end of the year we have X number of dollars left, this is the first thing that we're gonna take, this is the second thing, the third thing, to work through our maintenance, but that it should be budgeted. Overall, just as we have a highway, well, you guys have a highway block grant, which is a warrant article, but there is money in there for paving in the regular budget. We should have a similar fund set up in the school budget that we know we're gonna spend. If we look at 10 years, what is as level funded as possible to avoid random spikes, to have, all right, we're gonna spend $200,000 on maintenance this year. And if we look at the plan, this is what accounts for that 200,000. Now, whether we pay for it with end of year funds that may or may be available, great, but if it's not, we've at least factored in what the cost is. And so the goal would be, we'd have the plan, it'd be fairly level funded, and it's an advanced list of encumbrances, because if we can use end-of-year fund, we should encourage end-of-year fund. But we should not be banking on end-of-year funds. So it sounded like this is something that's being discussed and planned and looked at, and will come before the FIC at some point. But I was thrilled to hear that there is a long-term plan, at least starting to be developed. So that is where I'm at. That was most of what we discussed. But again, next meeting, July 8th, at the fire station.
And Mr. Vice Chair, one other update from the school, if I may. Solar is now live, the array is now live at the middle school. You didn't see that?
I saw it in the report.
Which means the clock is ticking for payments.
No. The clock is not ticking for payments because the system is not complete yet. Right, we're still waiting on the delivery of the energy storage system, and once that system is installed and complete is when the clock starts ticking. Don't ask on timing.
Well, it looks like we at least benefited from that, but whoa.
If I can just ask, for the school facilities, do you have anything written as far as what the roles and responsibilities is for that committee? I'm only asking because it seems that they are like all over the map.
Yep. This.
That wasn't what my understanding was of that committee. I'm just curious.
So we actually put it on the facilities committee to write their kind of charter and objectives and to organize and to present that back to the board for review. That should be the next step. And as a part of that, the appointment process of citizen reps
That
for
was discussed.
the board to vote on.
They call it the bylaws, but yes, it covered that stuff. Who's voting, who's not voting, and all those, like, what is the structure, what is the purpose, yep. To quote somebody, you can watch the video.
But no. But that's coming from you. I'm looking for it from them.
Yeah, okay,
So hopefully at our next meeting, then we'll hear that update.
yep. The advance warning, we discussed it.
That's it.
Capital improvement?
Didn't meet.
Didn't meet.
So our next meeting, I believe, is 8/4.
So just to close the loop on the question of the warrant article, that was going back to 2016.
For which one?
And that was for district-wide rekeying of door locks. Yes, we had the proximity card access,
Okay,
but obviously that's not for the interior stuff. Centralized computer access control. Phase 2 was the video doorbells that you guys have in place today.
Yep.
At the entrances, and then the outdoor cameras for
Okay.
the perimeter of the building.
So those are all complete.
Any
there was
other,
at GMS though, not you.
what's that?
There was named at GMS on there, but okay.
That's it, too. Oh,
So, yeah.
panic alarms at GMS, LMS, and CHS.
Yep.
Panic alarms.
No, it said upgrade external access control. So are
Right.
your keys for internal or external?
Internal
Because all the external ones have the
Yeah.
badge.
badge.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Alright. Any other member input? Going once, going twice, public input, nobody here? Close public input? Who wants to make the motion to adjourn?
So made.
By Ms. Douglas?
Second.
Can I, thank you. Wonder when we're gonna get that. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Have a great night. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, August 28th, here at